You're listening to the Break Podcast powered by Career Cloud.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Break Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Garden. Sometimes all it takes for a break moment is a conversation with an old friend. Gabe Marusca was born in Romainia and started a typical life. He had a low-paying job and he was dreaming about doing something else. Then a friend shared his entrepreneurial knowledge and changed Gabe's path forever. Now Gabe is known as the Nomad Solopreneur. He was a freelancer for nearly 6 years. And then in 2016, inspired by a new outlook, he started his solo web design business, Digital Finest, becoming a solopreneur. For over 4 years, Gabe has managed his business while exploring the globe. He's lived in 10 different countries and visited 26 others, giving him a unique perspective on remote work, which he believes is the future of work. Gabe's mission now is to help 10,000 freelancers escape what he calls the time for money trap. He shares actionable resources on that through his social media channels and weekly newsletter. In January 2023, he launched the Nomad Solopreneur Show, a podcast where he challenges his guests to find solutions to freelancers' everyday challenges. I hope you enjoy this episode with my new friend, Gabe Marusca. This episode is sponsored by ZipRecruiter. If you need a change and are looking for a new job, or if you're looking to hire for your small business, please check out ZipRecruiter today. Their smart technology matches the right candidates to the right jobs and sends new opportunities right to your inbox. They make finding a job or hiring the right person easier than ever. ZipRecruiter, the smarter way to hire. Try ZipRecruiter for free today by going to ZipRecruiter.com and tell them I sent you. Gabe, welcome to the show. How are you this evening for you?
Hey, Mike. Thanks for having me. It's amazing. Just got home from the gym and so happy to be here. Good morning to you from the other side of the world.
Yeah. So for some context, let's give the audience an idea of where in the world you are at the moment.
In the future, actually.
In the future, correct.
Yeah, 12 hours in front, I guess, or 13.
Yeah.
I'm in Bali, Indonesia. It's quite a popular touristic spot, but I'm not here for tourism. I'm actually a nomad, and it's just one stop towards the next destination.
Right. So you
home for no worries. I'll call it home for a few months, and moving to the next.
So you are considered the nomad solopreneur, which I think is such a great term. I'm really curious, how do you, and you, I think I read you've lived in 10 countries and visited another 25 or something like that. How do you decide on a country, and how do you decide to live in that country for an extended period of time versus just visiting?
That's a good question. At the beginning, it was just random based on my bucket list dreams. I used to watch National Geographic and stuff like that when I was a kid, and I never left Romania actually until 25 years old. And at the beginning, I was just traveling. I went to different popular destinations like Thailand or, Greece, Italy, Spain, and so on. But when I started my nomad life 4.5 years ago, I kind of wanted something more than that. So when I choose a country, I look at a few things like the community there. I'm specifically talking about the nomad community, because with this lifestyle, it's very hard to make connections and make friends and so on. And if the community is great in that country or region, that's a big plus. And when it comes to exploring, I'm looking more towards the adventurous part of that country. Of course, you can find places like Bali, for example, or Thailand, where you can have both. And that's amazing. But of course, there's a downside. When you end up in a situation where you are there, you should focus on your work and you end up exploring too much, or the other way around. So it's a fine balance. But in a nutshell, I'll basically look at various different things. And of course, good internet connection, making sure that it's literally safe, because some places are less safe than others. But so far, so good. I never encounter, let's say, bad experiences when it comes to emptiness. And if you use the common sense and so on, it's all good. But yeah, some sort like that. But in general, we digital nomads travel between communities. It's contrary with what people think, it's not a continuous exploration. Of course, we love to do that, but it's just a normal life in another country. The biggest difference is that when you explore, you don't have to purchase a flight ticket for half around the globe to, for example, visit Bali. Living here a few months allowed me to explore not only Bali, but Indonesia and the surroundings. And it's like weekend escapes or weekly escapes, depending on the amount of work I have. So yeah, that's some of the things that I take into consideration when I choose a destination.
I love asking about that because, you were talking about community. And I think what's so interesting about the internet, right, is you said it was kind of hard to, I forget how you put it, make friends or something. You're looking to travel within certain communities of digital nomads, but yet you and I are talking across the world right now, and we've been introduced to each other, through a mutual friend, Brian Gallagher, who's been on the show, who's also a world traveler. I mean, it's so fun for me to live life through your guys' eyes because I'm very adventurous like you, but I am rooted. I'm rooted in the United States. I have a family. I've got 3 kids. We have a community here where they go to school and all that kind of stuff. But I get to kind of like see through your eyes and experience that world and be friends with you guys, even though we're halfway around the world. So I just, that part of life today excites me so much. And I just always jump at the chance to meet someone like you because it's just so much fun. So I want to get to some of the breaks that we were talking about earlier. And for everybody not watching on YouTube, he's got a shirt on that actually says "Break Every Rule," which I thought was so cool, and totally in fitting with the theme of this show. So I want you to take us back and talk to us a little bit about your journey and maybe some of these moments. So you grew up in Romania, and I think you were just telling me about sort of your first break, which was around college, right? Why don't you go with that?
Sure. So as you mentioned, yeah, I grew up in Romania, and I was growing up in a really small town, around 17,000 inhabitants. And it was all that I knew. I was seeing myself growing up there, having a family, playing every Sunday football, soccer for you, and doing all those kind of stuff, like having a beer with those in the city or the village, because I grew up actually for 7 years at my grandparents in a countryside. And that's all that I knew. But I follow the dream of my mother. She was always dreaming to attend university, but she wasn't able to from financial reason. And she, with my dad, made everything possible for me and my brother to do that. And to attend university, I moved to a bigger city, which is the 3rd biggest city in Romania, Cluj-Napoca. And there, my perception changed about life, about what, in general, society told us the right path is, and so on. I got the chance, speaking of communities, to meet amazing people that were thinking outside of the box. And even that I went there, I attend for 2 years a university that was one of the biggest and best in Romania. I wasn't able to do anything outside that. I wasn't able to actually work and get experience into working. I wasn't able to spend a lot of time with my friends, new friends that I made there, and so on. So I want to break that pattern. And plus, I was paying a lot of money to attend that university. And in Romania, you have free education if you have good grades in different disciplines. And I had really good grades in physics. So I was able to join the physics university in order to do that for free. But I chose to go to the better one, and I had to pay for it. So in order to help my parents, I said, I need to do something. So I started working, but that didn't work well with the university attendance obligation and such. So I had to quit that and actually enroll the physics. And eventually I finished with a bachelor degree in physics, which never helped me. And that was my first break. And from that moment on, I realized that experience, the connection you make, and actually the people you surround yourself with are much more important than a degree. Even that degree can be important in various scenarios, but for me personally, it didn't help a lot. And the only good thing I'll take from university will be the connections and learning how to learn. And that was literally my first break until jumping to the next one, which we probably go through soon.
Yeah, your story is, I think, a familiar one for a lot of people in the United States as well. It's, we talk about the American dream here, right? But it's the same dream that most people, or a lot of people, have around the world. And that is to, I think at the essence of it, it's to discover who you really are and what you're really capable of. But we couch it in becoming we put this label success, right? With in air quotes. And so, and obviously the path is college for a lot of people. But I think what you described is really interesting in that, like, the idea that we're supposed to pick a discipline and pick a path at 18 years old, and that's going to shape the rest of our lives, like, is pretty crazy. And so that, I want people to understand, like, you can change out of whatever path that you've set yourself in. It gets harder the longer you're in that path. But like you said, I mean, you got a bachelor's in physics, but you're not using that at all, right? You learned a different way of finding growth opportunities than just creating that one path. And so I think that's really, really interesting. I just wanted to call that out. So take me to 2010, right? Because, like, I read this. So this, I think, is kind of your second break. So you get out of college, you're in 2010, you're working a regular job, you're kind of miserable. You have a conversation with one of your friends that changed your mindset. And I would love for you to describe that conversation and where that, like, just the circumstances and where that took you.
Sure, I would love to share that, especially because it was a conversation after a few years of not talking with that friend.
Oh, wow.
And a friend that actually invited me to partner with him in a business. At the time that I was having a full-time job, being paid literally peanuts. And I was like, man, I'm too busy. I have a full-time job. I go to university. I need to party as well. I have a girlfriend. I cannot, invest in some business but it wasn't investing money, actually. It was investing time. And I was sitting with my foot in a bucket full of ice because I had a small football accident. And I couldn't take a break from job because of the policies. And I had to make my foot swollen at the job next day. And I was sitting there being miserable, literally, and thinking about what I'm doing. Like, I don't have control over my job, over my life. Even that, in theory, I had, but I didn't know at that point. And my mind went to this friend of mine that the last time I spoke with him, he was making quite a lot of money from that business that started, in which he invited me to partner with him. And I messaged him on an old school Yahoo Messenger. And he was doing even better than that. And he was so generous to talk with me and share all the learnings that he went through the years, and basically teaching me almost everything he knew about business, about how to literally start the online business. And I was in awe. I was like, what I'm doing here? I need to make a decision. I had to change something in my life. And I did that. I literally started learning as much as I could from him. He was, as I mentioned, generous enough to share all those learnings, all those mistakes, and so on. And even he brought in a competitor in that. He still was generous enough to do so. And after learning all those stuff, I built my first website, and while having this full-time job, and the interconnection back in the apartment that I was renting was really poor. So I have to work on my side hustle from my job, because I literally stay 8 hours there and probably working for my job for like 4 hours, and the rest I was free. And they noticed at some point. So this is not advice for anyone to do so. They notice, they fire me. And after that point, I found another job, and was a job in some sort the degree I had, because it's not just physics, it's physics and computer science. And I found a job as a developer, and I kind of like it, but I already start to grow roots in this side hustle, and I start enjoying it, and I start to see opportunities. I saw that staying in a full-time job, no matter how well paid it is, because the second one, which was becoming my last job, was well paid comparing to the other one, but still I wasn't feeling fulfilled. I wasn't feeling that I'm achieving my potential. I was kind of trapped. I was always some sort of rule breaker, if you want. I want to go on a different path to explore new opportunities, to learn new things. And at that job, I was doing the same thing every single day. And wasn't sustainable. I was waking up at 3 a.m. in the morning, working for my side hustle, because at that job, I wasn't able to work during the work hours. And I was working for my side hustle until 7 a.m. in the morning. I went to the full-time job, stay there for 8 hours, go back home, sleep for a bit, go back to work at 12 a.m., middle of the night. I was going to sleep 3 hours, and start from the beginning. And it was a really rough period. Another hard lesson that I had to learn, that our body has a limited amount of energy. We cannot sustainably do crazy things like that for a long period of time. So I had to make the decision. So then was my second break, when I hand over my resignation, and I went full in on the side hustle. But I was already prepared, in the sense that I already put money aside I had like 6-month cushion at that point. And I knew if I go full in that, I'll be able to grow way faster and make enough money to basically make my source of income only from that. And in the moment that they accept my resignation, because in Romania you have to stay like, I think, 2 weeks or so until they accept it. By that time, the income from my side hustle reached the level of the full-time job. So I was even more peace of mind. But of course, with all this type of breaking the patterns and the rules, I have a lot of nice naysayers from family, from friends.
Yep.
You're crazy. You're living this well-paid job. You work in miserable jobs until now, but now you're finally making up for it. And I was like, I know what I'm doing. Let me do my thing, and you'll see how it goes. And fast forward to, I think it was 2012, and the date was 2nd of October, because I won't never forget that, because 2 dreams happened in one day. And that was about 1 year after I quit my job. I was able to meet one of my idols face to face. Not sure if you're familiar with him, because it's from the football world. It's Sir Alex Ferguson, probably the greatest manager of all time. Former manager of Manchester United.
Okay.
And they were playing a game with the local team in Romania. So I meet him at the airport, and in the same day I pay in cash to the 3-bedroom apartment in the city, which is one of the most expensive cities in Romania. And of course, all family, friends were going crazy, like, how did you do that in just 2 years of starting that? And so on. I personally didn't believe either. But all those sacrifices and all those leap of faith going off that beaten paths led me to that. Something that probably I could realize as well with a full-time job, but maybe in, 20 years of like a lease or high school and debts and so on, so credits. So I'm glad I didn't took that path. Even that wasn't easy and still is not easy. It's much more fulfilling and much more, full of learnings, full of experiences that I could not have in other scenarios.
You're listening to the Break Podcast powered by Career Cloud.
This episode is sponsored by ZipRecruiter. If you need a change and are looking for a new job, or if you're looking to hire for your small business, please check out ZipRecruiter today. Their smart technology matches the right candidates to the right jobs and sends new opportunities right to your inbox. They make finding a job or hiring the right person easier than ever. ZipRecruiter, the smarter way to hire. Try ZipRecruiter for free today by going to ZipRecruiter.com and tell them I sent you. I got a bunch of follow-up questions in that story. So bear with me, because you said you hadn't talked to the friend that you talked to that changed your mindset. You hadn't talked to him in a really long time. Was that because of some issue or falling out, or you guys had just gone your separate ways?
We just gone separate ways because he was really focused on that business. He was literally spending almost 20 hours a day. So he was sleeping after like 4 hours and so on. I was very busy with I don't want to call it anymore miserable life, because it was a life full of lessons, but it was a life in which I got caught and literally I didn't have time for anything else. And we just didn't talk. And even now we talk roughly once a year. We're still really good friends and like nothing changed. But with this lifestyle, it's really, really hard to actually stay connected. Unfortunately, it's the downside of it. So didn't went anything between us.
And so what business was he teaching you? This was essentially digital entrepreneurship. This was websites. What was this?
Yes, it was websites, building niche websites from which you can earn with advertising, display advertising, and so on, like AdSense and such. And you literally learn how to drive traffic to websites and win from that. And was basically my entry point to the business that I have now. The beginning, I was figuring out myself how to build websites. I had the background. I know a few things like HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, but I didn't know complex things. And at some point, I think was in the second year, I had to invest in one website because my knowledge was limited. No matter how much I learned alone, I wasn't able to create the complex website that I needed at that point. So I hired an agency, and I just noticed that there is a gap in the market. Majority of agencies that I was talking to and eventually choosing one were going on the same path. And I wanted to break that pattern as well and try to do something else, because everyone was full service agency. They were doing everything. Wasn't agency that were specialized on, for example, SEO or on design or on development and so on. And I want to mix two things, the knowledge that I have about development and something that caught my eye and start learning more and more about it, design. So I mixed those two, and I kind of went that way without accepting any type of projects that were related to actual marketing, like ads, paid ads, or SEO and similar. But I wanted to partner with those that were doing just that and those that were outsourcing the web design part. But rewind it a bit back. That was the type of business that he was like getting traction with. He shared all those links with me. I started learning as well a bit of SEO, a bit of how to drive traffic, how to tap into other audiences, because that was the big difference that comparing to other websites, because most were relying only on SEO. We were literally tapping on the biggest websites out there in that niche, and we got all the traffic from there. So in nowadays world with personal branding and stuff, it's literally like sponsoring a newsletter on a creator that is in the same niche with you, or literally partnering for a sponsorship post or whatever. So those type of things we tried back then and work wonders.
Okay, got it. And how, talk to me about this decision point you had of going all in on that business. So I think a lot of people, those listening, can relate to the quandary, the problem, right, of playing it safe, playing it dangerous, trying to estimate can I make it? Can I make this jump, to this place? How did you think about going through that process of going all in? I know one of the things you brought up was I had a cushion, right? Like I had 6 months of income. And I think that's one great way of thinking about it, right? To have that runway. But what was going through your mind in terms of making that decision?
Man, a lot of things. Like, first of all, what people say, what society from friends, family will told me about it. And of course, they were against it. And I discussed with them about it before taking the jump, with the exception of my family. I discussed with my brother, actually, but not with my mom and dad. I told them literally in the day that I quit. And of course, they were upset and so on. But after that, proud. And there are a lot of things apart from what happened if these things won't take off. And I knew that at that point, with the exception of those two last jobs, I literally switched jobs like socks, and most of them were in sales. Mm-hmm. So I had that sales background, sales experience, and I was like, I can literally hire any sales job in town and make a living. Mm-hmm. It won't be amazing in terms of income, but if something happens, I can go back to that. And I think this is one step that a lot of people miss. What if you go all in into something, you try to make it work and it doesn't work? You always can get a new job. Of course, it won't be that easy to get used to it again. Personally, after this is my 12 years of being a solo business owner, I don't think I'm able to work for someone else anymore.
Yeah.
But if you try for, I don't know, half a year, 1 year, something else, it doesn't work, you always can go back. And that was some sort of safety net thinking. Plus, of course, the peace of mind, having those money put aside for 6 months. And those are amazing because allows you to make decision without pressure. Because I was at some point after that in the position to make decision under pressure without having money. Because after I purchased in cash my apartment, I left out with basically zero because I knew that I still make from that business. But unfortunately, Google algorithm changed. Mm-hmm. That website that we rely on for traffic changed their policies. And literally overnight, I lost all my traffic to the website. So I need to figure out something else. And that part took time. So I was literally without money for half a year or so, which was a great lesson, not rely on a single source of income. And sometimes I feel we need to learn on the hard way some things, because at that point, I was never thinking of, this will work forever, will be fine, I'll be fine, and so on. That's why I invested right up front that amount of money in a place. But now realizing that I have to find something else, immediately I didn't start working on a single thing. I start experiencing various scenarios, various type of I was still in niche websites, but in the meantime, I started side hustling on building websites myself, as I mentioned. So basically, there were two income opportunities right away, and both become reality. So having those two streams of income, in one was slow, the other was okay, and so on, was basically giving me enough peace of mind to continue that path. So that was something. But yeah, other things that were going through my mind was literally, what if I cannot find another job? What do I do in that moment? And I was like, I can go back to my hometown, which is quite cheap to live. I can stay at my parents until I found something to work on something to build and such. And all those things were like a battle. But as I did with the university step when I quit, I was like, if I was making that work, I can do it again and again and again. And basically it was the same when I literally started my life from zero and left Romania for starting this nomad lifestyle. I left everything behind for something that I had no idea. I just knew from others that are doing it and from reading online, how is this lifestyle? But I have no idea what to expect, no idea like for course personal experience, and then was other thoughts and things going through my head.
Yeah. So what you described is, it's the fear. It's the what if this doesn't work out? And I think the way you went through it, sort of systematically taking risk off the table, or at least in your mind, having a quick plan of what you would do in a situation if it didn't work out. There's a great exercise from Tim Ferriss called fear setting, which is basically going through that whole exercise of just thinking about what is the worst that could happen and could you be okay with that? And you going all the way to, well, I could just move back home to Romania, with my parents, and start over again, or I have these skills that I can fall back on and I can get a job. And that just mentally prepares you to take a different type of risk, which I think is great. And then I think like the thing that holds people back in these situations who may go through that, they may go through that exercise as well and say, okay, I can do these things. I'm going to be okay. But they still don't take the leap is I think how I would describe it is the misestimation of the upside in that unknown path. So they think about it from a linear perspective. They're imagining out of what could happen, and they're seeing the downsides, which are really easy to see. But they're not able to visualize unexpected upside from following that path, even though it might be rocky. And I think that causes people to still say no. So there's almost these two uncertainty or risk estimation processes that our brains go through, which is like, what is the downside and what is the upside? And we have no imagination for the upside unless we just literally feel it in our bones that we have to take this, this path. And so I think that it's such an interesting problem for me to think about in how you help people think about those risks really clearly. And I just love your story there. And I think the other part of your story, and I want to get to the next phase of it, but having multiple breaks, going through these decisions multiple times, you start to gain confidence in that upside part of it, right? So I think what you were just describing, leading us to your next phase, was I had nothing. I gave all my possessions away. I sold it all. I left it all behind to embark on this journey, and I didn't know what was going to happen, but I did it anyway. And you had more confidence to do that because you've been through a few rounds of making these decisions and stepping into what we would call uncertainty. So are we up to like sort of 2019 in this phase now of your journey? Is that kind of where we're at? Okay, exactly. So take us through that.
And funny enough, I want to add something because something that I didn't mention is exactly that. Like one of the questions that I was asking myself is, what's the best thing that can happen?
Yeah.
And when I was asking that question, especially when I quit my job, I literally imagined arriving at the level of my friend that was making like 5 figures months and so on. And for Romania, that's unbelievable.
Right.
And that was my thinking. And when I went to the phase of like taking the leap and back in 2019 to go into the nomad lifestyle, actually, first I went through the fear phase as well. Like even that I had that confidence, it took me about a year. So the first idea came to mind in 2018 when I was visiting one of my clients in Zurich. I was doing like some sort of Euro trip with my brother and wife and his wife. And we arrived in Zurich. My client was working from there and I meet him, and he was one of the first digital nomads. And he was still living not necessarily nomadic lifestyle, but location independent lifestyle. And I was like, tell me more. And at that meeting, out of the blue, a compatriot of mine that was a business partner of his, which I didn't know, pop up and start speaking in Romanian. I was like, what? I'm in Zurich. I'm talking to my client. Who are you? And she was also a person that was living from country to country a few months or years at a time. And hearing about this thing, me working from a small room that I call office back in the apartment that I purchased, I was like, working from home, spending a lot of time inside without meeting others, without experiencing literally life, without exploring, without doing much, just focusing on work. What if I can jump onto this? So then the fear jump in and so on.
Mm-hmm.
But then I start to imagine what's the best thing that can happen. And probably, of course, that helped a lot. And the next process was to literally do the research and start to accumulate as much information as possible about that. Still wasn't a lot of information out there. Was probably Nomadic Matt that was sharing a lot of things, Tim Ferriss and so on, but not really those that were literally living a digital nomad lifestyle. And eventually I purchased one ticket to Asia. My first stop was in Dubai after I sold my belongings, donate parts of it and so on. I started traveling alone and was quite challenging at the beginning to, as I mentioned, to make friends. I'm an introvert and was quite challenging to get into communities. I was working from co-working spaces, trying to live in places where there are others. I try even hostels for a short period of time and different ways to get used to the lifestyle. But at the beginning, I think in the first or second month, I thought about quitting and going back and settle down. I start missing friends, missing family, and kind of feeling homesick for the first time in my life. And after a while, I get used to it and I start to see the benefits of this lifestyle and starting to get out of my comfort zone day after day. Because I think one of the biggest things about it, it's this, like every single place, country, it's a new experience. And it's not like traveling, because when you travel, you usually go to a hotel, you spend some time there, you book a guide, is driving you around and whatever. But here I need to figure out where I eat, where I sleep, who I go out with, where I work from, how will be the internet connection, how's the public transport, if there is any, how I rent a car or a scooter or bike, whatever. And all those things that you basically need to go through every single time you go to a new location. It's literally going out of your comfort zone. Might not sound much, but this part of figuring out every single thing is taking a lot of time. Something between 1 or 2 weeks if you haven't been to that place before. And now, learning from those things, I start to go back to the same place. For example, here in Bali, it's my third time here because I already know the place well. I know where I'm going to stay. I have already friends here. I know the community and so on. So going back to those places, and as I mentioned, traveling between communities help a lot, avoiding this time lost. But yeah, it's not a lifestyle for everyone, I will say, even that is portrayed as an ideal lifestyle because people assume you're in a constant travel and such. But the reality is just another lifestyle that you simply live in another place. You have all the benefits, of course, of exploring that place from that location instead of spending your weekend, I don't know, in the same park or in the same neighborhood or in the same surroundings. You explore new things, for example. Of course, it's harder, like you mentioned, that you have roots, you have a family there, you have kids. It's hard to travel to have this lifestyle with kids, but I met a lot of people. For example, I think 2 weeks ago, I met a family that went to almost every single state in the United States with their kid. And now I met them in Bali. So they start going internationally now and they homeschool. They try to break this path and try new things and see how can this evolve. Of course, has a lot of disadvantages, like it's hard to make friends. It's hard to get in that community type of situation. But since a lot of people are start doing more and more this, you can have that as well. For example, here in Bali, there are schools specifically for those that are here for a short period of time and so on. So it's starting to get to appear solution for this type of situations.
Yeah, it's interesting what you brought up in my mind. It was the options for doing different things are unlimited, and getting even more unlimited now, right? You think about going from office to working from home to literally working from anywhere. Families doing the same. I know a couple of families that have done that as well. So you can do all of these things. A lot of people are daydreaming, like, oh, wouldn't it be cool to do that? Like, you can actually do these things. It's a question of, do you really want to do it? And being like very clear with yourself and your family or your significant other about what is most important for you in your life and prioritizing. And so how did you think about that? Because there was, you mentioned a bunch of downsides and that you're an introvert. I'm an introvert too, actually. So I can imagine and I can empathize with going from place to place. It would be very difficult to find community and build new friends. So you detailed a lot of those downsides, but there was obviously something major pulling you inside of yourself to have this experience. What was that? And was there any, like, what was the deciding factor of just, I got to do this. I got to go be a digital nomad?
That's an amazing question. There are two answers to that.
Okay.
A part of me was the explorer, and not in the traditional way. Since I was a small kid, I loved to explore new experiences, new things from, I don't know, literally like trying stupid things and get hurt or something by mistakes, of course. And that part of exploring, I remember growing up with my brother and literally knowing every single capital in the world, knowing every single big river or I don't know. And all those things, all those memories, then the TV appear and we were able to watch documentaries about various places. So it was that part of exploration, but exploring the unknown, exploring the out of your comfort zone thing, something that somehow was, I won't say forbidden, but growing up, my parents were too protective and don't do that because you can get hurt, or don't go there because it's dangerous and stuff like that. And now I drive my partner crazy because if we go on a hike, I'm on the top of a rock or something, on climbing a tree or whatever, and she's going crazy because I might get hurt and stuff. So those things are still with me from the childhood. So that was one part, like exploring the unknown, exploring the new things in life and learning about communities. Because the first time when I went outside of my country, I was 25 years old, and was an experience that I'll never forget. Like literally hearing others speak other language apart of English or Romanian, eating food made on spot in another country that I never try, or literally seeing that actually the sea can be crystal clear, or the ocean. Because back in Romania, we have Black Sea, and it's not literally black, of course, but it's more like muddy and stuff. So you don't have like that experience. And I realized how beautiful is the world. Of course, I already knew from the TV, but living that experience, I wanted to get more from that. And the second reason was health reason. I have health problem that aggravates itself if I live in a region where the cloud covering is like constant and the atmospheric pressure is building up. And the city that I used to live back in Romania was in a valley between mountains, and was quite tough too. Like I was basically 6 months here, never seen the sun, and living through pain and so on, and start to get a bit debilitating. So I need to find a solution to that. And for my first travel experience in a warmer climate, I noticed just for spending there 9 days, I felt better. And I talked with my doctors and so on, and they say that, yeah, indeed, this region that we are living in is prone to this type of situation. So if you want to live a more pain-free life, you might not want to move. And that decision to change environment and basically shape my environment for what is best for me was literally the major factor, not the explorer part. And that's probably also the biggest lesson I learned in my life. Like literally we can shape our environment. And if we are not satisfied in the position that you are, doesn't matter if it's professionally, as a location or where we're born, we can shape our environment. And the other day, actually today, I launched a podcast episode with him. I have a guest that he flew war in Syria to build a better life, and he's thriving now. And of course, was challenging and so on. But of course, not everyone is lucky to do so. Unfortunately, a lot of people are affected by conflicts and stuff, and they cannot move, or financially and so on. But even your financial situation, you can change it if you start learning and such. But yeah, that was a big lesson from those two decisions, which literally started this lifestyle.
Yeah, it's a great lesson that you point out that we have options. We can change certain things, but it is a matter, we can't change everything. So it's a matter of prioritization, going back to that, and then creating an environment, being willing to take the steps and look awkward to people who aren't going to break that pattern, right? Breaking any pattern, you look different and awkward. You get criticism from people that you know. And that's the major hurdle, I feel like, to doing this, because everything else is totally doable. It's what's in here, and can you deal with the criticisms and, the questions and the doubt and all of that kind of thing. That goes for making a change like you did, or quitting your job, which you experienced, and the backlash there. It's just that a lot of people can't get over that judgment, I think, from others, even though most people aren't really paying attention. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter anyway, but it's a huge, huge barrier, I think, for a lot of people to doing something different and taking a different path.
Yeah, and it was a struggle for me as well, because that introvert person, back when I had a lot of friends, and wanting to go out of that shell and kind of make connection, make friends, noticing how important the person that you surround yourself with are. I made a lot of friends, and when I left Romania was very, very tough. Like I was literally crying like a baby with my friends and so on. And in the same time, all that made me realize who the true friends are. Those I still stay connected to it. We still stay connected. And those that are, I won't call it bad friends or something, but simply our vision of life is different. And every time we talk, because we still talk from time to time with those, are pointing out, oh my God, you're living this amazing lifestyle and we struggle here. You can change your life as well if you want. That was the biggest challenge, and still is the biggest challenge, to make meaningful connections, and meaningful friends on the road. I met a lot of people. I made also friends, but we keep in touch as well, just virtually. And even that, I crossed paths with quite a few of them, a few different places, since all of us moved between communities. It's so hard to literally, see each other monthly or even twice, third time a year. And that's probably the biggest downside of this, which it's the reason why it's not sustainable long term. At the end of the day, we are social animals, and we need that community. And the long term plan is still continue doing this for a couple of years and then settle in some place. And probably will still, because once you get this bug of travel, it's so freaking hard to get rid of it. And even now that we are settled in Bali for 6 months, we had 2 escapes, and probably will have more outside of Bali, still in Indonesia. But having that base at some point for at least half a year and the rest of the year to explore, or like still slow nomading, will be something that we're looking forward to. And the reason are that, plus probably even that we are also on the bandwagon of homeschooling when we have kids. Still having a stable place where they can make friends or go experience that particular culture and grow, let's say, stable in a particular location. Because if you switch too much countries, when they get used to a location, food, whatever, culture, climate, you move to the next one. So that's challenging. And it's the challenge that some of my friends are going through that have kids. But yeah, in a nutshell, there are a lot of benefits, a lot of drawbacks. But at the end of the day, the benefits are overwhelmingly surpass the downside. And if I were to go back in time, I will never change my decision. That's 100% sure.
You're listening to the Break Podcast powered by Career Cloud.
This episode is sponsored by ZipRecruiter. If you need a change and are looking for a new job, or if you're looking to hire for your small business, please check out ZipRecruiter today. Their smart technology matches the right candidates to the right jobs and sends new opportunities right to your inbox. They make finding a job or hiring the right person easier than ever. ZipRecruiter, the smarter way to hire. Try ZipRecruiter for free today by going to ZipRecruiter.com and tell them I sent you. One of the things that I feel like is super underrated about, I guess, the internet or particularly LinkedIn and Twitter is like, you end up finding support from people and getting more support for some type of break or change that you're making from complete strangers than you do with people that have known you your whole life. Brian and I were talking about this, just the other day, and it's fascinating. So it's one of the I tell people, like, if you're thinking about doing something different, right, do it in public, because that's how you find your commonalities with other people the quickest, right? Like, you go have a conversation with your best friend about wanting to change your life and do something completely different, and you're going to get a blank stare. They're going to say, yeah, you should do that. Like, I support you, but it's not the same as somebody else across the world that has had the same feeling and gone for it and can cheer you on. And I just find that so fascinating. Entrepreneurs, a lot of first-time entrepreneurs and people who are in corporate jobs, they never want to tell anybody about what they're going to do and their idea. But you tap into like serendipity, and you tap into connection, and you tap into, I guess it's sort of that upside, what is the best thing that can happen by sharing and being vulnerable and building in public. And I just find that absolutely fascinating. So even though I know it's challenging for you to meet friends in locales, like in certain locales, like, to me, I just love meeting people like yourself, and I feel like we're friends and we're jiving here. And you're, 13 hours ahead of me, and you and I may never even actually ever meet, in person, but I'll be right here to cheer you on the whole time. So I just wanted to point that out. And then I wanted to segue to, kind of your mission today. So what you have done is evolved over time, building websites. And then now you're really kind of championing the freelance movement, the solopreneur movement, the nomad movement. And you're kind of on this mission to really help, 10,000 people become freelancers or build their own one-person business. What is it about that? I know that's part of your story, but what is it about freelancing? Do you see that as the future? Do you see, when you look out 10 years, do you see way more freelancers and one-person businesses than exist today?
100%. That's my opinion, at least. And the reason behind it is people start to realize that building your own business or building your own path, it's much more easier and much more doable than was before. Now everyone has access to knowledge 24/7. Now we have as well AI, and we can find anything and learn anything very fast. And when I started out, I started as a freelancer, and I was trading time for money, literally being paid by the hour and so on, which wasn't bad. But in the same time, we have a limited amount of time. And when I get the shift and realize that, wait, it's more to freelancing than this. And in 2019, I start actually building a business around the web design thing, and start actually running my freelancing business as a proper business, and start working with others, start building processes, systems in place in order to not do repetitive tasks, automations, and so on. So when I realized all those things, of course, my life got better. I got more time to myself, to take care of myself, to spend time with my loved ones, and explore the places that I start to do. And all those things made me slowly going on this path. And last year, speaking of building in public, I was going through a tough period. I personally and mentally I was in depression. Probably the COVID part with being locked down and not being able, I still traveled back then. Even when I was like in the second border open, I was locked down in Spain. And when the border opened, I flew to a place that was safer, and being able to spend more time there and actually go outside. But I was too much time locked inside, like many of us. And all those things corroborated with finding escape in work got the best out of me. And I was going through a period in which I wasn't able to work. I wasn't able to focus on anything. And I realized that I kind of started losing my purpose and passion. And I wanted to start building public something. I had no idea at that point what it would be. The first step was to reinvent and revive my web design business. And I started sharing that. And what you mentioned about support, I found amazing support on Twitter around that. Then I found out LinkedIn and finding support there. And all those things helped me realize how important is a community, how important it is to actually start sharing with others what you work on, what you do. And just by chatting with others, I realized that most people are getting trapped in this freelancing thing and not seeing beyond that. They have one skill, and they think that they can go with that skill forever and just leverage that skill alone, which of course is not true, because especially now, like with the advance of technology, if you are a copywriter, for example, if you know only copywriting, you're kind of screwed. And all those things come popping up in my mind, and I say, I want to do more. I love working with clients. I love building websites and see them succeed. But I want to do on top of that something more, impact lives that are not that, I don't know, maybe lucky, or maybe having access to the right information, and traveling through countries like Indonesia, Philippines, Thailand, seeing people, extremely smart people that don't have the same access to knowledge and so on, made me realize that. And seeing actually one of my clients building a skill academy to reskill others from various jobs that they have into more than that, and learning new skills online and stuff. I go back to my university years when I love sharing my knowledge with others. And I was like, I should do something about it. I should start sharing more about that. And I kind of pivoted from sharing, I don't know, web design tips and stuff, into sharing actually my lessons, my things that I learned during the years of freelancing, and then pivoting into one-person businesses. And day after day, seeing the positive feedback, I wanted to share the knowledge of others. And that's how my podcast came to life, because I wanted to share not only what I learned, but what others learn, like you do. I think it's a wonderful thing, like sharing the knowledge of others, sharing the experience of others is simply priceless for some of those out there listening or reading about it online. And that's how all the mission came to life. And seeing at the end of the day, one life here, one life there, changing to the better.
Yeah.
It's probably one of the most fulfilling things I experienced. I was lucky enough to see that already with some of the people that I talk. And all those things are literally like the things that really matter in life, in my opinion, at least, because Money, yeah, we can make, and we can make every single day. But actually helping others and changing the lives of others that were less lucky than us, it's rare. It's very rare.
I absolutely love when I am talking with somebody and sharing my experience. It's not me as an expert telling you what to do, but just sharing a lesson that I went through, or my angle of view on some issue, and you just see the light bulb go off in their mind. Like whatever angle you came in at finally resonated in their brain and made them see the problem a different way. That's what I live for. Like that's the fuel that keeps me going and wanting to do more of this is that it's not the money. It's having one-on-one conversations like this. And so I think like the big work that people have to do, the big introspective work, is finding the thing that fuels them, because there's an infinite possibility, an infinite way of you earning a living from that thing. But you're going to be around, you're going to be working, you're going to be on this earth for a long time. And it's not good enough to just be fueled by the stick, the carrot. Like you got to figure out what internally motivates you. And so I love that pivot for you. So basically you were I have all this experience freelancing. I tell people this, like it's step one. If you want to work for yourself, or you want to explore working for yourself, step one is freelancing. Step one is taking the skill that you're paid for in your job right now and getting one other client, and you are a freelancer.
Exactly.
Like that's step one. But then step two, if you like that, you run into this time money trap, which I think is exactly what you said. The problem that you see of like, okay, I'm still selling my time for money as a freelancer, right? I basically just took my job, I carved it out of the company, but I'm still in a job because my hours in are what I'm paying for. So how do what are the next skills that I need to do to learn to make that life sane and still continue to grow? And I think that's where you're at, right? Like that is the problem that you're trying to help solve with all of your knowledge and everything. So
yes, that's the thing.
I love that.
Thank you. Yeah, that's the thing. Like in that moment, when you find yourself in a situation like you start being successful, quote unquote, as a freelancer, that you don't have time for anything else, it's time to make a change. And it's time to realize that time is limited. You need to leave control off and start realizing that there are people out there that are better than you, because that was my problem. I thought I'm the best. I was so wrong. And when I start hiring people, having contractors, because I don't have full-time employees, but I started working with contractors, and I was able to actually not work in my business, but work on it. And that was literally also life-saving, because we have limited energy and we have only one body. If we wear ourselves down, like working all the time, and we don't have time to think, we don't have time to strategize and actually make important decisions, why we are doing it? As you mentioned, like you just switch from one job to another, but it's probably a better paid job, but you probably will work more as a freelancer that you work at a full-time job. And same can apply for solopreneurship. Of course, okay, you start building a business and you want to ask yourself, you want to grow, or you want to build something that's sustainable enough to achieve the lifestyle that you want, or your goals, or whatever you're driven by, or you want to become an actual entrepreneur and start hiring, start partnering with others, start founding or something. And those are questions that went through my mind, and I literally stopped thinking about those. And I was like, no, I don't want that path. I don't want to build the next unicorn. I don't want to build a big business and such. I want to be able to, if I want to take, 2 months off without worrying about my business dying, to be able to do so without my attention being constantly asked for and so on. I'm still not 100% there. I still have a lot to learn as well. And that's the beauty of it. Like it's a non-stop learning, and that part of exploring your curiosity at the end of the day and learn new things, pivoting, trying new things, like I try with the podcast, now with the newsletter and so on. And all those new things put you in the situation out of your comfort zone and actually learn from it and spread to others. Because that's the thing, like a lot of people I heard telling me, but I have nothing to share. I have nothing to, I'm not an expert in anything, but you don't have to be an expert in something. If you are 2 steps ahead from someone, you can share that with those. As you mentioned, like just by talking to someone, you can literally change their life without you realizing that at that point. And like that friend of mine that had that chit chat on Yahoo Messenger, he literally told me a few things that for him was normal. He was already doing that for years and he didn't mind sharing. But by sharing his expertise, he changed my life. And I will be forever grateful. And those sharing are the things that I love the most about creators in general and about the online world that you mentioned, like LinkedIn, Twitter. The generosity of sharing your learnings, it's unbelievable. And every single person is sharing that for free. Of course, everyone has paid products and so on, but those are to take the next level or to accelerate your learning or whatever. But if you want to learn for free, you can learn anything you want for free. You just need to put the effort to know what you want and the world is yours.
Yeah, absolutely. And people like you and me are here to help and share and introduce you to people that can help you solve your problem. It's just one big giant network. We're all trying to help each other. So I love that. I want to pivot here to kind of our rapid fire questions, and then kind of close this out with, just where people can learn more about you. So here's my rapid fire questions that I ask everybody. Is there a recent author or thought leader or influencer that you've come across that has caught your attention? Somebody recent.
Recent, yes. His name is Daniel Priestley. Hopefully I pronounced that well. And the reason why he caught my attention is because of the book he wrote about how to become a key person of influence. And speaking of influence and speaking of what I love about the book is the fact that it's doing in an ethical way. And he's sharing basically it's our 5-step process. Identify having a perfect pitch, knowing exactly what do you do for whom and how do you do it. Start publishing content to actually influence others with it and share your thoughts in the world. Then build a product ecosystem. Then raise your profile by starting to become an authority in your field by attending speaking events and so on. And then partner with others. That's one of the reasons why I follow him. Recently, I found about him from a podcast he did with Chris Do, and I was blown away by the success he has. He's, I think, Australian born, and that book is stunning for those learnings. And anyone that wants to influence others in a good way, in an ethical way, I highly recommend following him.
And what is it called? How to be a key person of influence? Is that the title of the book?
How to become
a key person of influence?
A key person of influence, yeah.
Okay, excellent. My next question is there a book that you're reading now or have read recently that's influenced you? Do you have a different one other than that book?
Yes, I had, and it's one about biases. It's called The Art of Thinking Clearly by Rolf Dobelli, which as well is a world-class thinker. And he basically put in that book 100 ways in which humans behave irrationally, showing us what we can do to recognize and minimize these thinking errors. And because we often support even the bias, or we support the reality. And unfortunately, how we are brain, we support the bias almost every single time. Right. And he tried to solve that problem with the book. And for example, one of the biases that I remind from that I recall from that is the survivorship bias.
Yes.
You basically don't take into account every single story. You just see the success story. You don't see those that didn't succeed and why and so on. And without that, you cannot actually grow and learn from it.
Yep, exactly. And I feel like, yeah, these biases, that's kind of what we were describing earlier with, there's so much research about us trying to avoid downside risk more than, enjoying upside risk, and that how that skews our ability to understand kind of the set of options that we really have and the likelihood that we're able to, succeed on a different path. I think that's all clouding us, and it's essentially a cognitive bias. So that's great. I'm gonna pick that one up for sure and take a look at it. Do you have one piece of advice for someone that's just starting out and trying to get a foothold in this world? So from your experiences and everything you've shared with us, is there one piece of advice for somebody like coming out of college or high school and looking at the world and saying, I got to make my footprint here?
Yeah, shape your environment. I think is the only thing that will dictate basically your success. If you don't surround yourself with the people that you want to become like, or you'll become the people you surround yourself with. I went through that so many times, from bad to great, that we tend to jump into that thing that we literally replicate what's seen in others. And if you don't shape our environment, from people to literally the place you work from or live from, it will shape you. That's the thing.
I like that one. That's great. Now, there's a lot of negativity in the world right now. We've got conflicts and wars and economies maybe not doing so great. But what's got you excited about the next 12 months? What's on the horizon for you or society that's making you optimistic?
I think I love technology, and I think even that some people think AI will ruin the world and such, I believe it's one of the best things that will ever happen to us. Like, we'll help to live a more meaningful life and leverage it in a way that we can actually go on a path in which we don't have to grid for, 12 hours a day of working. Will help us work less and on more meaningful projects. And I think in the next 12 months, we'll advance even more that it did, and we'll be able to leverage it much more easier than now, because now it's still those that understand technology and a different way of thinking are taking advantage of it. But I think it will become much more streamlined, and everyone that literally have access to internet will be able to leverage it in a useful way.
How, just a follow up to that, like, a lot of people have heard of ChatGPT and obviously like being able to write and do some queries and stuff. But is there what's like kind of the number one way that you're using AI, either personally or in your business, that people might not be thinking about?
For example, production for my podcast. Almost all the editing is done in an AI tool. I upload the video and audio. It's transcribing automatically. I can remove mistakes, long pauses, repeating words, and so on with a click of a button. It's saving literally hours. Without that tool, I was spending almost one day editing one episode. Now I hire help, and it's spending like 1 hour per episode. So it's really, really helpful. And audio engineering, still for podcast, I have a tool that is called Auphonic, in which I upload the recording, and it's removing the background noise. It's removing the various things that happen and it's leveling the audio and so on. Things that I don't have the knowledge or time to do it myself. Will take probably days to do it so properly. I don't know, probably less if you're an expert, but that is doing literally in like 10 minutes. And there are just two tools, but there are so many others that's, I don't know, let me think, another one that I use ChatGPT daily for research. For example, brainstorming idea, literally helping me be a better writer. I'm not a good writer, and it's helping me like spot mistakes and stuff like that. And Grammarly, it's a tool that it's around for a while, and it's using AI to. When I was starting, I was making literally every single second word mistakes. Even now, I'm really bad at grammar, but now it's correcting me, like I think in 1,000 words, maybe 3 or 4 times. So I'm proud of that.
Cool. Excellent. All right. Anything, I'm going to give you the floor, and just, is there anything that I didn't cover, that I didn't ask you, that I should have? Anything or any question you need to ask me, or anything you want our audience to know that I didn't cover?
Yes, I'd like to know why you started this podcast.
Why? Great question. So the background here is like, really bought this website and podcast in 2017 as I was making my transition out of like working a corporate job. And I have kind of similar background in terms of SEO and advertising and stuff. And so step one was always to get the site, Career Cloud, getting traffic, making money. And then I said, I would love to do a podcast. And I think part of it is I love having one-on-one conversations. I don't like being in big crowds, but I love having one-on-one conversations. And so the opportunity kind of came up as I engineered the business to start making money. Like I said, okay, I want to dedicate some time there. Now, what do I want to talk about? I don't know, but I'm just going to sort of explore. And so I would just take random people on the podcast, and the podcast had started as a job tips podcast. So it was like a lot of resume advice. It was interview tips, career coaches, that kind of thing. But I was just thinking, like, what is the topic around career and personal development that I really enjoy talking about? And so I just started having different people on, and it just sort of coalesced around these, it's essentially like how people change. How do we break the path that we're on and choose a different path? And so I love talking to folks that have taken a different path, or had the courage and taken the steps, taken the lumps, taken the, all of the bad stuff and overcome it to get on a path that they wanted, that they designed, that they want to be on. Those conversations to me are so important. And I think part of it is like deep down inside me, like I'm trying to continue to fuel my ability to do those things. And I want to network with people, and the people that talk about shape your environment, right? Like I want to be around people that are figuring out how to do their own thing. And so the break to me just came. It was just like, you got to become somebody different to do something new and change. You got to break who you are today and become somebody else in order to make a big change. But at the same time, like, it's not as scary as it actually seems, like in reality. So I'm trying to bring those lessons out for people, and I'm trying to work through my own stuff, right? And I'm trying to grow myself. And so anytime that I can grab knowledge from a person like you and apply it to my situation, like that helps me. And so it's just one of those things that I love talking about, and I would do, if I made no money from or anything, just because I enjoy it.
I love that. And it's like a cheat code, right? Like,
yeah.
When I started this podcast as well and interviewing people, I was like, holy shit, I have, 1 hour talking with these smart people and learning from them for free. Yeah. It's just unbelievable. And just the one-on-one conversation is so different for us introverts than of course behind the screen and such, comparing to like a huge people gathering. Yeah, that's an amazing story. Love that, the reason behind it.
Oh, very cool. I appreciate you asking that question. So let's leave the audience with where they can learn more about you. Like I said in the intro or in the beginning, you and I found each other on LinkedIn through a mutual friends. I've been consuming your content, but tell us everywhere that we can find you so people can listen to your podcast, can follow you, and can learn more about you and your journey.
Sure. Thank you. So apart from LinkedIn, when you can find me under Gabe Marusca, it's quite hard to pronounce that, but if you search for the Nomad Solopreneur, you will find me easier. And my website is under the same name, gabemarusca.com, where I share a weekly newsletter about solopreneurship and anything in between. And the podcast is called the Nomad Solopreneur Show. where I invite nomads and solopreneurs, and once in a while some experts in their field, like industry leaders and such. And I challenge them to craft solution for everyday problems, like from business problems to nomadic lifestyle and so on, but mostly around business. And yeah, I love to hear from you, and anyone, if you want to get in touch and connect, I'm open to connect, and most actively on LinkedIn. So feel free to share me a message.
Excellent, Gabe. This has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for sharing your knowledge and time with us. It was great to meet you. Hopefully one day, sometime we will meet in person. I don't know if that will be in Bali or in the States or somewhere, but hopefully we'll get the chance to meet each other in person. But till then, I look forward to really following you and your journey online. Please don't be a stranger and reach out, whenever you can.
Thank you so much, Mike, for having me. It was an absolute pleasure, and it's always great to be on the other side of the mic. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk, because as you know, we often love to talk about ourselves, and hopefully I didn't bore too much your audience with my stories. And thanks again for having me. And likewise, feel free to reach out anytime. We love to chat more. And I'll be on the other side of the world starting November, south in Colombia, but never know when you go up north toward the States. So
excellent.
we'd love to meet in person.
Yes, excellent.